Kai Kalosh, Boker Or, Masechet Menahot Daf Kav Daled Amud Aleph 2481. We're starting on Kav Gimel Amud Bet. Yeah, Kisali Krav Kahana. Shh. Kisali Krav Kahana Ashkechinu Levne Rabbi Chia Diyatve VeKa'amre. So what happens is like this: when Rav Kahana came from Bavel to Eretz Israel, right? He found the children of Rav Chia, yeah, that they were sitting and they were asking, Isaron Shechilku. Yeah, you have an Isaron of a mincha, which they came and they divided it. Vinicho bakise, bavisa. Yeah? So it says like this. Says, Kisalik Rav Kahana, when Rav Kahana came from Bavel to Eretz Israel. So he found the children of Rav Chia that they were sitting and saying, when you have an Isaron of a mincha, that they divided it. Vinicho bebisa. We're on Kav Daled Amud Aleph, first word. Venicho bebisa. Okay, and now the kli, you put it in the kli which bolimbo tamincha. Venaga tevulu yom, so tevulu yom comes, right, and he touches be'achad mehen in one of them, and he makes a pasul. Ma'u, what's halacha with the chetzi hasheni? זאת אומרת, אתה לקחת משהו שלם, חילקת את זה לחצי, ואז הטבול יום בא והוא נגע באחד מהחצאים. אז עכשיו, מה הדין בחצי השני? Okay. I'm trying to say the comparison with the 1 second. Yeah, 1 second. We're going to see. So, Kitnan, when we just said that a kli is mitzaref, mashe betocho lekodesh, hanemile echad ba'adade. He says, when we say that there's a kli which is mitzaref, what's inside of it, that's only if it's going to be touching. But if they don't touch each other, lo, I'm going to say no. Or dilmar, maybe loshna, there's no difference between them, and the kli is mitzaref otam, even though they're not touching. What does that mean? Usually we have a general rule. The general rule is a kli is mitzaref mashebifnim. Okay, that's a general rule. A kli comes and mitzaref bifnim. I'll give you an example. Right? When you want to do a frashat challah, I have to do a frashat challah that everything is in one bowl, and then I come and I take off a piece. Let's say accidentally they actually asked me this Shabbat, this Friday. They asked me this past week. They call me, Rabbi, we made a mistake. My wife didn't do a frashat challah. She forgot. And all of a sudden they baked them. Now, can you take it afterwards from the baked bread? The answer is yes. But what are you supposed to do? You have to put them all in a tray or in a basket. Why? So therefore it's all one entity. Because when you're doing the frashat challah, everything has to be one entity. There's another thing. There's I think this was a Ben Ish Chai, right? That he brings down that on Purim we have mishloach manot. So I have mishloach manot in a basket. Now I've got in the basket 20 different things. When I give it to you, it's all considered one entity because I give you one basket. So therefore, if you remember, I brought down that it is better that at least one person take out something from the basket. So therefore, you're giving the basket, let's say a wine or whatever it is, or whatever it is, liquid. So you're giving the basket with, so it's two items. You know, because again, anything which is inside is considered one. Okay, that's the concept. So 1 second. So now what we say here is like this. A kli is mitzaref mashe betocho. I've got right now two separate anisaron, right, that I went and I separated it, but they're not touching, but they're in the same basket or in the same utensil, whatever you want to call it. So that's the question. The question is, the tvul yom comes and he touches one of them. Is the other one tameh? So that's the question. Is that only to do with Kodesh? That's only if you touch it. But here you didn't touch it, or maybe noshna. It's mitzaref gamarnu. That's the question. So ihu. So he comes and he tells them, mitnan kli mechaber, right? Kli mitzaref tanan. Koldu. We didn't use the terminology that the kli is mechaber otam. Lechaber otam is mashma, right? That even if they're going to be nogot zo bezo, and the tzarich and the kli is tzarich rak lechaber otam biyachad. We learned that the kli is mitzaref otam. What does that mean? Shafilu im hachatichot shebekli ze hakol nechshav davar echad bechol mikre, even if they're not nogot. So therefore, when it says the terminology mitzaref, זה יותר חזק מסתם מחבר. כשאתה אומר מצרף, זה מצרף אותם אפילו אם לא נוגעים, אפילו אם לא קשור לשום דבר. Right? It's already there. So therefore it's going to be פוסל everything. Okay? Next. הושיט אחד לבניהן. Imagine a person comes and he takes a chetzi saron, which is the shlishi, right, from another mincha, and he gives it to the children, right? Oshitecha livnehen, to their children. And the Tvul Yom came and he touched one of the machatzit chadasha. Ma'u watzalacha. Do we say also the first two chatzayim are also going to become pasul because of tziruf kli, or not? Okay. So one more time. That means basically what happened was you have two chatzayim in one kli, they're not touching, and then he went and he took one, right, and he gave it to his children. Okay. Now the Tvul Yom touched the new one, the third one. Now there became three. One more time. There was two. After there was two, he went and he took part of this, right? Chetzi saron shlishi from another mincha. Okay, and then what did he do? And then they touched the third one. Okay, so again, from another tray. He got from another tray, and now the question is: do we say that the first two are also going to become pasul because of tziruf kli, or not? Okay.
Does the keli get the tuma?
One more time.
There was two. He touched one.
Yeah, but there was two. There was two. One more time. There was two. It was the same mincha that I split it into two.
Okay.
Now I'm bringing a third one, and I'm going to put the third one by them. Okay, and now when I'm putting the third one by them, right, what happens is that now the Tvul Yom comes and he touches the third one. So do I say beforehand it was one mincha, I split it in two, but it's in the same utensil, and I touched only one. So that was a doubt. And then we went and we said mitzaref, everything's mitzaref. Now all of a sudden I've got the two here, which was really one that I split, and now I take another one from somewhere else and I put it here in between. And then what happens is that a Tvul Yom comes and he touches the third one. Does it make the other two yes or not? Samalu tzarich lekli, kli mitzarfo. And tzarich lekli and kli mitzarfo. He comes and he says like this. He says an incredible yesod. He says like this. He says, if you need the kli, so then the kli is mitzaref otam biyachad. But if you don't need the kli, so therefore the kli is not going to be mitzaref otam biyachad. So therefore he comes and he says, you don't need the kli which is munach shama. So then the other two chatzayim are going to be okay. And the kli is not going to be mitzaref otam, and they're going to stay tahor. Okay? Meaning it all depends whether you need the kli or not. Okay?
In the first case, if there's two, you touched one, everything is tameh?
Yes, that was the maskana.
Why?
Because it said mitzaref, not mechaber. Okay?
So in the second case also.
No. No, it's one kli. It's one kli. It's one kli. Yes. היה לו אפשרות, תמיד היה לו אפשרות, אבל הוא שם את זה באותו כלי. אז זה משועמד. הושיט טבול יום את אצבעו ביניהן. What happens right now if the Tvul Yom comes and he puts his finger, right, in the avid between the two chatzai isaron? Without, can I please finish? Yeah. So without touching the actual dough or the keli. What is the halacha? Samar lehu en lecha davar shemetame me'aviro ela kli cheres bilvad. The only time, right, that it's going to become tameh from the inside is only by kli cheres. Meaning, avid other than kli cheres is never going to be metameh. So the fact that he came and he put it in the airspace, I don't really care. Hadar iu ba'u minayu. So then afterwards he came and he started asking them, Ma'u likmotz mizeh. Can everyone please follow inside so that way you understand what's going on? But then afterwards they ask questions, right? Ma'u likmotz mizeh lezeh. What is the halacha, right, to do kemitza on half of an isaron, right, on another half of an isaron? So likmot mizeh al zeh. So tziruf, do you say that the din of tziruf kli is midoraita, or are you going to say that it's a din midirabanan? Okay, because if it's going to be doraita, so then the two chatzayot, right, of the isaron are going to be mitzaref biyachad, whether lechumra or lekula, whether it's going to be to do the tumah or the kmitza. But if you're going to tell me it's only the rabbanan, so maybe it's only going to be lechumra, not lekula, and this kmitza from one to the other does not help to the other one. So amrulo, they told him, zulo shamanu. We don't have an answer on this. Kayotze ba shamanu, but we did hear something similar to this. The Tanam, as we learned in the Mishnah, shete menachot shelo nikmetzu nitarvu zo bezo. You've got two menachot that they were not nikmetzu. And they were nitarvu zu bezu. They did get mixed up with each other. אם יכול לקמוץ מזו בפני עצמה וזו בפני עצמה, if you could do קמיצה, right, from this one on its own and this one on its own, right, which basically each mincha, right, so kshirot, it's going to be kosher. ואם לאו, and if not, right, psulot, it's going to be pasul. כי יכול לקמוץ מהכשרות, however though, when you can do the kmitza on the kshirot, amai, why do we say that din is like that? He says each one of them is two chalakim. The chelek which is fitting for kmitza and the chelek which is meurav. Hach de meurav, halo naga. He says it didn't touch the chelek zeh right? So he says which is with the meurav, it didn't touch with the chelek which is roi for kmitza. So therefore still the Mishnah taught us that the mincha is reuya lekmitza. So it comes out that the kmitza is a chelek from the mincha, right? It helps to the other chelek even though they're not touching. So Amar Rava comes and he says, Dilma, maybe it could be begushinim chulakin esuyin kemasrek. Maybe we're talking about two menachot which are connected, right, to two to the two teeth of the masrek, which means that they're only going to be, they are connected on one side, but they're not connected on the other side. So the chelek nifrad is already has a shiur kede kometz, right? So it comes out that from the chelek which of every single mincha, it is ra'ui for the kmitza, even though they're separate. Meaning it's like the bottom part that's connected, but then on the top part, each one is like is separate. On the top part, it's separate, but they're all connected like a headboard, right? Or here he compares it to a comb. So the comb only on the bottom part is it all connected, and then on the top everything is separated, right? Each one, right? Oh, that's what we're saying. So my haviyala. So what's the maskana? So Rava says, Tashema, let's try to bring a proof. The time we learned in the right, do not bring an isaron in two different kelim and do kmitza on one of them. Right? So now, the fact that we brought down two kelim, kamitz. If it's going to be kli echad, like the two kelim, so then you can do the kmitza. So it comes out that when each isaron is going to be placed in a kli echad, but it's mechulak to two chalakim nifradim, which they're not touching each other. Again, we're going to talk about that the kmitza is a chelek of one of the minchas. It helps with the chelek, right, in the same keli. So Amalei Abaye says it's not true. Why? Dilma shne kelim, right? Maybe what are you talking about? Two kelim. Hechidami, kegon kvisa bekaba. He says it's a kli which holds he says 3/4 of a kav. Okay, inside of a kli which is machzik a kav. So it comes out that the chetzi isaron of the kli of the inner one and the chetzi isaron of the kli of the kav, which is the outer one, the afal gav da'arive mi'ailai, because even though they're mixed up on the top, okay, kevan de mifsak mechitzata de kvisa mitata, there is a mechitza, there's a pasek on the bottom, so lo, it's not going to be fitting for kmitza, which means like this: when you've got a utensil. Inside the utensil, you've got like a mechitza, but it's going to give you, sometimes it's dividers inside the utensil. Now, on the top, though, they connect. So he says, even though on the top part they connect, the fact that on the bottom part they've got walls, and the walls are dividing between one and another, so therefore he comes and he says it's not fitting. What's the case of one kli, which is like two kelim? It's like a revata of tanagolim. Ve'afal gav, and even though the mifsaka and mechitzata, that even though it's going to be a hefsek of a mechitza, which means again you're going to have the mechitzot which are going to stop them, hanagia. He says, right, it's still going to be touching, right, where inside the avira kli. So according to this, he comes and he says that it's going to be machshir the komets, right, only if they're actually touching. Aval hacha, but in our case, that it's the chelkei mincha are not touching whatsoever. So therefore, tibay lecha. So then you do have the question. So therefore, basically, what Abaye is coming in trying to say is, it all depends on the utensil, right? That's what he's trying to say. Because you tell me the kli. Tell me what the kli is, and according to the kli, let's talk. So by Rabbi Yirmiyah comes and he says, tzeruf kli v'chibur mayim. In a case where you have chetzi echad that becomes tameh through tzerif kli. And the chetzi zeh is mechubar to another chetzi, right? Al yedei chibur mayim, through water. Mau, does it become tameh or not? So one more time. I've got three chalakim. I've got two chetzis that the chetzi became tameh through chibur kli. So imagine, I've got two halves in my utensil. I've got my utensil, 1. It was in the same keli. This became tameh because of this. Now this one that became tameh because of aleph is connected to gimel through water. There's a water connection between them. So what happens exactly, right? Ma, what's halacha? Kitanan, when I say kli mitzaref masha betocho lekodesh hanemile de gavai, that's only going to be within the kli. Aval dibrai, but if it's going to be outside of the kli, it's not going to help. Or dilmar, maybe kevan de mechabar mechaber. Since at the end of the day, bet and gimel are mechubarim through water, so therefore that's it. It's also going to be mitameh gimel because of the bet. Okay. So he says, "V'imtim tzolomar." Now, if you're going to tell me, Kevin the mechubar that it is going to be mechubar, chibur mayim v'tziruf klimau. What's going to be when you have a chibur of mayim? Because over here, at the end of the day, the bet and gimel are all only connected through water. So kitran, when do we say kli metzaref hanemiledim gavai? Only if it's going to be touching from within inside of the kli. Aval mi barai lo, but outside no. Or din malo shnar, maybe be'emet. There's no difference between them, right? They're really be'emet. Even in a case where it's going to be touching from outside of the kli, it's still going to be tziruf kli, and even the aleph, right, is going to be everything's going to become tameh. So in this case, teiku, we don't have an answer. Meaning we do not have an answer because here it's very far apart. You've got aleph, you've got bet. They're not touching, but they're in the same keli. Now, one of them, the bet is going to become tameh because of the aleph, and now the bet is connected to a gimel, which is outside of the kli, through water, chibur mayim. And now, are we going to say that it's going to be tameh the gimel because of the bet, because of the aleph? So, because of this connection that we have, we don't know. That's something else. So that's getting directly mechubar. Here we're talking about the bet is connected to.
So if it was directly mechubar, it would be.
Well, it only makes sense if the aleph became tameh, so the aleph could be. But here the bet only became tameh because of the aleph. So now the question is, can I get the gimel to the bet to the aleph because the gimel to the bet is outside of the kli and it's only through water, but the bet only became tameh because of the aleph which was in the kli. So teiku. What? The two dots on the bottom of Kavdala the Mudalev, 24a, the two dots. By Rava. Okay, another question. Isaron shechilko venitma echamen. Imagine right now you come, you take a mincha, you divide it two chetzis, and one of them became tameh. Okay, venicho bebisa, and then you put it into a kli that they do the belila of the mincha with the other chetzi. Now again, they're not touching. The chazav v'tul yom v'naga beoto tameh. Now the tul yom comes and he again touches the tameh one. So it already became tameh. But he comes and the Tvul comes, touches again the Tameh. Ma what's halacha? Mi amrin, and do we say savale, tuma, that it's already enough the first tuma, and therefore it's not going to get an extra tuma, olo or not? Okay? Everyone understood the question. Do we say that it's already kilu savea from tuma, and therefore it's not going to become tameh again, right? Because it's already tameh, right? Or do we say no, that now it becomes tameh again, and now it's going to be tameh whatever's in the keli again? Because remember, the first time around, right? Because the first time around, it was not tameh in the kli. It was only the first chetzi that became tameh. Now you put them in a kli, but nothing happens. But now, if you're going to touch it again, do you see now it's going to become tameh? So Amale Abaye Miyam, do we say savelet? Is there such a thing as that it becomes tameh legamen and therefore cannot become more tameh? Vatram, we learned in a Mishnah, Sadin tameh, kavdala demubet, midras, vasao vilon. Imagine right now you have a sadin tameh. It's going to become tameh tumat midras. Remember, midras is that if you've got a zav that comes and he lies down upon it, right? Because the zav is an avatuma, so he makes it tameh midras. He walks upon it, lies down upon it, vaso sits upon it. Vasao vilon, right? Zav is an avatuma, yes. Zav is an avatuma. Okay? זה אותו דבר. זב, זבה ונידה. שלושתם אותו דבר. Right? The only one which is a vi avot atuma is a met. Right? But other than that, all of them are an av. A sheretz is an av. The thing. Okay? Yes. Also. Midras vasao vilon, you made it into a vilon. Right? Which means that they come, you made it into a vilon. Taormina midras. It's not going to be mitameh anymore, adam vekelim. Why? Because you can't lie down upon it anymore. Aval tameh maga, right? Midras, but it is going to be mitameh adagat rishon letuma because of maga midras. What does that mean? It's going to be mitameh ochlinu mashkin. So Amar Rabbi Yosef says Rabbi Yosef be'eze midras naga ze. What are we talking about now? Maga midras. If you're going to tell me that the negiyah of the sadin in itself, right, you shouldn't make it tameh. Why? Because it's only pnimi, it's hidden, right? It's tumat betzas stanim is not going to be mitameh. Ela, but rather, right, after you made it into a vilon, it's im nagabu azav, tameh maga azav. So if the zav comes and touches it, it's going to become tameh. So therefore, kinagabo azav miatameh, it comes out vafilu levasof, and even at the end. So am I why? Why don't we just say savaletuma? Meaning, if you already made it tameh, why is it becoming tameh again? So the fact from here, you see that there's never enough of tuma. You just continue accepting tuma, right? Lavdil elef avdalot. If you want your musar for today, right, the person just becomes tameh and tameh and tameh and tameh. You just continue going. Capish? So he says, Amar lei, comes and he says, Umimai dehai sheim nagabo azav levatar midas. Whoever told you that it's afterwards? Dilma mikameh midas. Maybe it's before. And therefore, it's a tuma chamura and a tuma kala. Meaning, I would understand that you're going to have a tuma chamura going on a tuma kala. It makes sense. Why? Because it becomes stricter. A person did a certain count, meaning that he did a certain avirah, whether it's going to be avirah in the Torah or right or lavdil, something, and all of a sudden now he does something stronger. So obviously, I'm not going to pay attention to the lighter one if he did something stronger, right? If a person comes and he committed a crime, what did he do? He did an anti-Semitism. Exactly. אז קודם כל אני מסתכל על הרצח. right? מה אכפת לי עכשיו על הגניבה? אתה צודק, אחר כך, או לא יודע מה, אבל קודם כל, right? לא, תלוי, כן? לא, רק שנייה. Yeah? So he comes and he says, right? לא, בגלל ברגע שקים לב דרבה מיני. בדיוק. Right? He comes and he says like this. He says, right? He comes and he says like this. Right? He says like this. He says, on the Tum'ah Chamura, right? On the Tum'ah Kala makes sense. But in our case, Idi v'Idi Tum'ah Kala lo. He says they're both the same Tum'ah. So therefore, I'm not going to say that it's going to become again. So he says, Ella, but rather you're right. It's from the Seifa. What's the Seifa? Modeh Rabbi Yosef b'shnei sadinim mekupalim u'nochim zalzeh. Right? Rabbi Yosef is going to be modeh on two different types of sedinim, that they're going to be mekupalim u'munachim zalzeh, and the zav sat on the top one.
The bottom one should be.
The elyon is tameh midras, and the tachton is tameh midras, right? Yeah. And he says v'maga midras, which means it's going to be tameh whether it's midras or maga midras. Why? Because the bottom one touched the top one. So whether it's because of midras, because the actual he's lying down on it as well, or because it's touching the top one. Now he says, 1 second, but am I? Why don't you just say that it's already savea? It's already savea from tuma. So says the Gemara, yeah, but there, hatam, it's batachat. Here, it's zeh. Meaning here, when he lied down on this, or he sat down on this, it's basically like two pillows, right? Here it's blankets, but let's pretend pillows, right? He sits down on two pillows. So the top one becomes tamem midras, right? Of what? Of a zav. The bottom one is also tamem midras of a zav, plus maga midras. Because since the bottom one is touching the top one, so the bottom one becomes tameh because of the top one. So he comes, no, it's a rishon, right? So therefore, לא משנה, אבל זה rishon. Yeah, so he says, so the question is, why don't I just say savala tuma? So answers the Gemara, the answer is very, very different. There in that case, the zav comes and he sits down on the two pillows in one shot. So since he sat down in one shot, I'm going to say everything is affected. Here, it's one after another. So the question is, do I say savale tum'ah one after another or not? Because it's already savea, right? It's already savea. So if it's already savea, that's it. Now it's not going to get it again. Okay. Another case. Okay. Amar Rava says, Isaron shechilko ve'avad echamen. Imagine right now you come, you divide the mincha, and one of the halves gets lost. Ve'avad echamen. So you take another one. V'nimsa rishon. Now you found the first one. Now you have all three of them. So you have three halves. Okay? You have three halves right in front of you. You got the original half of the dough. You got the second half, which was lost, and then now you found. And then you have the new half. They're all munachim bebisa. They're all in a utensil. Nitma ha'avud, right? So the avud gets tameh. Avud, right? So it's avud is the rishon mitzarfin. So the avud and the rishon are going to be mitzarfin through the kli, and therefore it's going to become tameh. Mufrash, but the one that was separated afterwards is not mitzaref. Right? So that means the kli is not going to be mitzaref oto. Okay? Because basically it was never supposed to be together with the avud. Nitma mufrash, if the mufrash was tameh, so mufrash v'rishon mitzarfim. Avud eno mitzaref. Nitma rishon, shnehem mitzarfim. Both of them are going to be mitzaref, and they're all going to be tameh. This is an incredible concept. One more time. Okay? Look, I've got a utensil. Chetzi, chetzi. I took the mincha, split it up. Chetzi, chetzi. This chetzi gets lost. When this chetzi gets lost, I come and I take another part and I put it in. All of a sudden, I found the other chetzi, the original chetzi that got lost. So let's call it aleph, bet, and then we had the gimel that we brought in. So the bet got lost, boom, I put in the gimel. All of a sudden, I found the second one. So I put the bet. So now I've got all three of them inside of a keli. Says the Gemara, depends which one of the three become tameh. What's mitzaref to become tameh? What does that mean? I don't say that all three of them are going to become tameh.
At what point did they get tameh?
After all three of them are in the utensil.
But when did you touch it to make it tameh? That's what I'm trying to understand.
When they're all three here.
So
I found the bet. I found the bet that got lost. I put it back. So I've got aleph, bet, gimel.
Right.
Okay. Now what happens is one of them becomes tameh. What happens? Do all three of them or not? So says the Gemara, no. He says like this: whichever one which was fitting for becoming mufrash. So, for example, he comes and he says this. He says when it's going to be the first one, the aleph, both of them become tameh. Why? Because when the aleph becomes tameh, let's say a guy comes and he touches the aleph and he makes it tameh, the other two automatically become tameh because the aleph was supposed to combine with both. The aleph was going to combine first with a bet, and then it was going to combine with a gimel. So therefore, since it's ke'ilu combining to both, the second aleph becomes tameh, the other two become tameh. However, though, what happens if it touched the one which got lost? No, him and aleph, because the aleph was supposed to connect to him. The gimel was never supposed to connect to him. So therefore, the gimel is not tameh, but the aleph and bet become tameh. Meaning the bet became tameh because he touched it, and the aleph. And if he touches the gimel, so then the aleph and gimel are tameh because the gimel was supposed to connect with the aleph. But the one that got lost was never supposed to connect with the gimel. What? Abaye comes and he says, "Afilu nitma echad mehen," right? Even if one of them becomes tameh, nami shnei mitzarfim, they're both going to become tameh. My tama, kulam benebikta dadi adani, because they're all in the same keli. If they're all in the same keli, so therefore they're all coming from the same koach of the mincha. So therefore the kli is mitzaref, all of them together. So v'chen linyan kmitza. The same halacha applies to kmitza. Kamatz mina evud. If right now you did kmitza from the one that got lost, shira v'rishon echalim, the shiraim and the rishon is going to be eaten. And mufrash eno nechal. The one that was separated is not going to be eaten. Kamatz mina mufrash. If you did the kmitza from the mufrash, shira v'rishon echalim avud eno nechal. Kamatz mina rishon. Right, if you do the kmitza on the first one, both of them are not going to be eaten because both of them are going to be needed for the kmitza rishona. The comments cannot come and permit it. Abaye comes and he says, no, afilu kamatz mechamen, doesn't matter which one, shnemen and nechalim, you can eat from both of them, the same yesod. My tama, what's reasoning? Kulu benebikta dadedininu, because they're all part of the same basket. Once they're all part of the same basket, it's all the same halacha. So matkifla Rav Papa comes and he asks, the shidaim didei miya nechalin, at least you should eat the shidaim. Danka the comets, the lokariv. He says there's going to be a sixth of a comet, which is not going to be brought. Why? Because since you have three halves, and they all need the comets to permit it, the comets is going to shayach to all of them. So even the chetzi nosaf, which is not part of the mincha. So if so, you've got a third of a comet, which is keneged the chetzi, which is the extra, which is pasul. Right? So he comes and he says, Matkif la Rav Yitzchak bered Rav Meshasha ve'komets kufeh hechi kariv. How do you bring the comets? Ha'ika tlata chulin. You got three chulin, meaning at the end of the day, you've got 1/3 chulin. You've got a mincha, right? One of them gets lost. You come and you bring another one, and then you found the one that got lost. When you have here 3 portions, 1/3 of this portion is chulin, because at the end of the day, you only need 2 portions. It's not 3, it's 2. So that okay, fine. You want to bring that back, but it's still chulin. So he says, Ravashi says, Kometz bedaita de kohen tal yaminta. He says no. The komets, everything has to do with the da'at of the kohen. The Kohen ki kamitz, Isaron kamitz. So when the Kohen is doing it, he's only doing it on Isaron. I've got an Isaron v'chetzi, right? Because Ki'ilu, I've got 3 portions. Doesn't matter. The Kohen is only doing on 2 portions. So since the Kohen is only doing on 2 portions, that's why it's going to be okay.